In the heart of the city, where dreams collide with reality, there lived a woman who was told from the very start that she would never amount to much. Her name was Clara Torres, a name that was never spoken with respect, at least not until she made her own destiny. Clara wasn't born with a silver spoon in her mouth, nor was she given the best opportunities in life. Raised in a humble neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, she learned early on how to survive, how to work hard, and how to fight for what was rightfully hers. The odds were never in her favor, but that never stopped her. Her mother, a single parent who worked double shifts as a waitress, had big dreams for Clara. Dreams of a future far from the struggles that defined their family. Clara's mother always told her, "You'll be the one to change this." But those words were often drowned out by the harshness of reality. Despite the weight of her circumstances, Clara's goal was clear: to become a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, one who would fight for the underdog, for the ones who didn't have a voice. But the road ahead was not an easy one. People had already told her it was impossible. People like Mr. Campbell. Clara remembered what she experienced at the office. Clara sits in front of a large desk, facing a well-dressed man, Mr. Campbell, a senior partner at a prestigious law firm. He adjusts his glasses, glancing at her with an almost dismissive look. Mr. Campbell: "Miss Torres, I'll be blunt. A woman like you, with your background, your lack of connections, you'll never make it as a lawyer. The system wasn't built for people like you." Clara's face tightens, but she stays silent, trying to hide the sting of his words. Mr. Campbell continued, "You can try all you want, but there are certain doors that will never open for you. Trust me, you're better off choosing another path." That moment was a turning point. The words of Mr. Campbell echoed in her mind. He was right about one thing. The system wasn't built for people like her. It was built for the privileged, the wealthy, the ones who had the connections to open any door. But Clara wasn't the type to give up. She had a fire inside her that couldn't be extinguished. Clara stands up from the desk, pacing back and forth in her small room, her hands clenched into fists. The sound of a door creaking open from another room can be heard. Clara's mother stepped in. Clara's mother: "Clara, you've been studying for hours. You need to take a break. You're going to burn yourself out." Clara stops, looking at her mother with a tired smile. "Clara, I can't, Mom. I have to keep going. You always said I could change things. I can't stop now." Her mother smiles warmly, but there's worry in her eyes. Clara's mother: "I know, but sometimes, even the strongest of us need to rest. Don't forget why you started this. It's not just about proving them wrong, it's about doing the right thing." Clara looks down, her expression softens, but her resolve is unwavering. And so, Clara pushed forward, determined to prove everyone wrong. But the question remained: could one woman, from an unknown corner of the world, truly change the system that had been stacked against her since birth? Clara Torres had a long way to go, but the journey she was about to embark on would not only change her life, but the lives of countless others who had been told they would never succeed. In a busy university library, Clara sits at a table surrounded by piles of legal textbooks, her face illuminated by the dim light of a desk lamp. The pages in front of her blur as her eyes begin to water from exhaustion. A loud group of students in the background laugh and chat, but Clara remains focused, her brow furrowed in concentration. Clara Torres was used to being the only one who believed in herself. The library felt like her second home now, a place where she could escape the noise of the world and bury herself in the law, something that could lift her out of the life she had been given. But even here, her dreams were being crushed by the weight of constant judgment. Clara's hands tremble slightly while flipping through a case study. She tries to push through, but the words begin to swim before her eyes. She exhales deeply, rubbing her eyes, trying to focus. For every page she turned, Clara could hear the whispers, the voices of doubt, the voices of those who thought she didn't belong. And the worst part was, those voices were starting to sound like her own. The story shifts to a flashback, showing Clara sitting in a lecture hall. The professor, a middle-aged man in a gray suit, glances at Clara skeptically before continuing his lecture. "Professor," snide tone, "now I know some of you are here because you have other interests besides the law. But let's be honest. How many of you truly think you'll make it as lawyers? The legal world isn't for the faint of heart. It's for those with connections, with power, not, well, people like you. Clara's face flushes with a mix of anger and humiliation. She shifts uncomfortably in her seat, glancing around at the other students who seem either uninterested or secretly smirking. The words stung, as they always did. It wasn't the first time she'd felt out of place in this room full of students with far more privilege than she could ever dream of. But this time, something inside her snapped. Something told her it was time to stop hiding in the shadows. Cut to Clara walking down the hallway after class, head down, her shoulders slumped. She passes by a group of students laughing as they talk among themselves. A tall, well-dressed student, James, notices Clara walking alone. James, mocking tone, loud enough for Clara to hear. "Hey, Torres, you still trying to make it in law school?" Must be hard for someone who doesn't even know the first thing about it. Clara's face tightens, but she doesn't stop walking. James laughs with his friends as they continue to mock her. Clara's eyes well up, but she fights the tears back, clenching her jaw. James and the others didn't know the half of it. Clara had never been given the luxury of a fair shot. They didn't know what it was like to fight for every scrap of respect, every ounce of validation. But Clara was done hiding, done pretending that their words didn't hurt. Later that evening, Clara sits at her desk in her small apartment, scribbling furiously on a piece of paper. Her mother enters the room, noticing the tension in Clara's posture. Clara's mother, gently. "Clara, honey, you've been at this for hours. Why don't you take a break? You're wearing yourself thin." Clara, frustrated, shaking her head. "I can't, Mom. She stops, her voice cracking slightly. "I can't let them be right. I can't let them win." Her mother sits down next to her, her face softening with concern. Clara's hands tremble as she wipes a tear from her cheek. Clara's mother, soothingly. "Sweetheart, you've already come so far. You've worked harder than anyone I know. But you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Sometimes, it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to do this alone." Clara, fighting back tears. "You don't get it, Mom. I don't have a choice. I'm never going to get this chance again. People like me, they don't become lawyers. They just become forgotten." Her mother sighs, gently placing a hand on Clara's. The silence between them is heavy, filled with unspoken words. It wasn't just the professors or classmates that pushed Clara to the edge. It was the constant reminder from society that no one like her was meant to succeed. She was a woman with no family wealth, no elite connections, no one to back her up. Yet, her determination only grew stronger with every insult, every slight. They told her she didn't belong, but Clara was starting to think, maybe it wasn't her who didn't belong in their world. Maybe it was their world that didn't deserve her. The next day, Clara finds herself in the campus law office, waiting for an appointment with a career advisor. The office is sterile, professional, a stark contrast to the chaos of her inner world. When the advisor, a middle-aged woman with a no-nonsense attitude, finally calls her name, Clara stands and walks into the office, her heart pounding. Career advisor, flipping through Clara's file. "Clara Torres. Let's see, you've been in the top 20% of your class, but your grades are, well, let's be real, a bit below the standard for most firms. Have you considered other career options? Maybe something more practical?" Clara, shocked, trying to hold back her frustration. "I'm not looking for a backup plan. I'm going to be a lawyer." Career advisor, sighing, not looking up. "Clara, I understand your ambition, but you need to understand how the real world works. The legal profession isn't just about smarts. It's about connections, about knowing the right people. Do you really think you'll make it with your background, with your situation?" Clara stands up, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. Her voice is steady, but it carries the weight of all her pain. "Clara, I don't need your approval. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this because I have the right to fight for what's fair, and I'm not giving up, no matter how many people try to push me out. The advisor's shocked expression as Clara left the office, her face stiff. Clara had had enough. She wasn't just fighting for a career. She was fighting for her dignity, for the respect she knew she deserved. And though the world kept pushing her down, she refused to stay there. The fight for justice wasn't just something she wanted. It was something she needed to prove to herself. She was about to show them all just how wrong they were. In Clara's small apartment, the sound of rain tapping softly against the window, the light from the street lamps outside cast long shadows across her room, where Clara sits at her desk, staring at a rejection letter. Her eyes are bloodshot from lack of sleep, her face pale with exhaustion. She crumples the letter in her hand, tossing it aside. But it doesn't make her feel any better. The rejection stings just as much as the others. Clara had faced setbacks before, but this was different. This rejection wasn't just from another law firm. It was from a prestigious internship that could have opened doors to her dream. Every rejection felt like another nail in her coffin. Yet, it didn't stop her. She couldn't stop. But even Clara's relentless spirit had its breaking point. Cut to Clara pacing in her apartment, running her hands through her hair. Her mother enters the room, her face filled with concern. Clara's mother, softly. "Clara, sweetheart, maybe you should rest for a while. You've been at this for months. You're burning yourself out." Clara, snapping, her voice shaky. "I don't have time to rest, Mom. I can't afford to rest. If I don't get this, I'll never be a lawyer. I'll be nothing." Her mother steps back, her face softening with sadness. She knows Clara's pain, but the weight of it all is too much to bear. Clara turns away, her voice lowering. "Clara," quietly, "I'm starting to think I'm just not cut out for this." Deep down, Clara knew her fight wasn't just against the system. It was against herself. Her doubts were beginning to creep in, her every step feeling like it was leading nowhere. Each rejection fed the voice in her head that told her she didn't belong in a world that didn't want her. Yet, she could never bring herself to quit. Cut to Clara walking into the university law library the next morning, her shoulders slumped, her mind racing. She's exhausted, barely keeping her eyes open, but she knows she can't stop. She reaches her usual spot at a corner table, where a stack of books and a pile of notes are waiting for her. As she sits down, she notices James, the arrogant student from earlier, walking toward her with a smug smile. James, grinning. "Still at it, Torres? You do know this is just a waste of time, right? You really think you'll ever be a lawyer? No one here even takes you seriously." Clara, clenching her fists, her voice controlled. "Maybe I'm not here to impress you, James. I'm here to prove something to myself." James laughs, shaking his head as he walks away. Clara watches him go, her chest tight, her stomach churning with frustration. She looks back at her books, trying to focus, but the words blur together. Each encounter, each dismissive word, each rejection felt like a weight on her shoulders. But Clara refused to let it crush her. Yet, in the silence of the library, her mind continued to spin with doubt. Could she really do this? Could she really defy the odds and become the lawyer she dreamed of being? Or was she chasing a fantasy that would always be just out of reach? Cut to Clara sitting in the dean's office the next day. She's waiting for a meeting about her grades, and the air is thick with tension. The door opens, and Dean Wilson, a middle-aged man with a stern expression, gestures for her to come inside. He looks over her academic records, his expression unreadable. Dean Wilson, flatly, "Miss Torres, you've been working hard, I can see that. But the truth is your grades are still well below average. I've spoken with a few professors, and I'm afraid I don't see a future for you here. Maybe it's time to reconsider your path." Clara, fighting to hold back tears, voice trembling. "You don't understand. I can do this. I just need more time. One more chance, please. I need this." Dean Wilson, pausing, then sighing. "I'm sorry, Clara, but your future in law is uncertain. The statistics don't lie." Clara stands frozen for a moment, the weight of his words crashing down on her. Her chest tightens, her breath shallow. She opens her mouth to speak, but the words catch in her throat. She leaves his office without another word, her face pale and her heart sinking. Another door slams shut, another person who told her she didn't belong. Yet Clara couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was at play. This wasn't just about her grades or her background. There was a system here, a barrier she couldn't seem to break. The more she fought, the more it seemed like the world was determined to make her fail. Cut to Clara walking down the street after the meeting, her eyes focused on the ground as she struggles to hold back tears. The sound of footsteps behind her grows louder. A voice calls out. It's James again. James, mocking. Clara, what's the matter? Didn't get that law internship you wanted? Guess you're just not cut out for it after all. Clara stops, her heart racing. She turns around to face him, her fists clenched at her sides, her voice shaking but defiant. Clara, you have no idea what I've been through, no idea what it takes to get this far. But I will become a lawyer. You can laugh all you want. I don't need your approval. James chuckles darkly, shaking his head. James, keep telling yourself that, Torres. It's cute, but you're nothing more than a joke in this world. Just face it. Clara stands there, her anger rising like a tidal wave. For a moment, she's speechless, the weight of his words almost too much to bear. But then something shifts inside her. Her resolve hardens, and she looks him straight in the eye. Clara, low, fierce. Maybe I'm a joke to you, James, but you won't be laughing when I make it to the top. Just watch me. James smirks, walking away, leaving Clara standing in the street, her heart pounding with a new, raw determination. The camera zooms in on her face, a fire igniting in her eyes. Clara had finally reached a breaking point. The pain, the doubt, the rejection, it had all built up to this moment, and in the face of it all, she had found something she never thought she had: the strength to fight back. The battle wasn't just against the system anymore. It was against everything that told her she couldn't, and the fight had only just begun. Clara standing outside a grand courthouse. The camera slowly zooms in on her face as she stands still, her body tense. The atmosphere around her is thick with anticipation. The sun is setting behind the tall, imposing building, casting long shadows across the pavement. Her breath is shallow, her heart pounding. This is it, her first real case in court. Clara Torres had fought for years to get here, and now, at the moment she had dreamt of for so long, it felt like everything she had worked for was about to collapse. The weight of her failures, the rejections, the doubts, it all pressed down on her shoulders. But this time, Clara was not going to back down. She couldn't. Clara looks down at the folder in her hands, her case file. It's thick, the pages filled with evidence and notes. She's been assigned to defend a young man, Eric, accused of a crime he swears he didn't commit. As Clara walks toward the entrance, she sees James again, standing with a group of lawyers. He gives her a smug, knowing glance. James, mocking. Well, well, Torres. Finally got yourself a case? Don't think for a second you can win this. You're way out of your league. Clara stops in her tracks, her eyes burning with a mixture of anger and determination. She takes a deep breath, then looks him dead in the eyes. Clara, steadily, I'm not here to prove anything to you, James. I'm here to prove something to myself. James scoffs, walking away without another word. Clara's hands tighten around her case file, and she steps into the courthouse, each step echoing louder than the last. She finally arrives at the courtroom door, her mind racing. She pauses for a moment, then pushes the door open. Inside, the courtroom is grand and intimidating. The judge's bench looms over the room like a mountain. Clara takes her seat at the defense table, her palms sweating as she arranges her papers. Across from her, the prosecution team, led by a well-groomed lawyer named Mr. Thompson, sits with smug expressions, ready to tear her apart. Clara had walked into this courtroom as the underdog, the one no one believed in. She wasn't supposed to be here, but here she was, and the odds were stacked against her. The evidence was overwhelming. Eric's fingerprints were on the crime scene, and the witnesses pointed directly at him. But Clara believed in one thing: her client was innocent. The judge enters, and the room falls silent. He's an older man with an imposing presence, his eyes sharp. He looks down at the papers in front of him, then nods to the prosecution to begin. Judge, sternly, Mr. Thompson, you may proceed. Mr. Thompson stands, adjusting his tie with confidence. He speaks with precision, presenting a well-prepared case filled with facts and evidence that seem damning. Clara watches quietly, her mind racing as the tension in the room builds. She knows she's in over her head, but she also knows she has to do something. She has to fight. Mr. Thompson, calmly, Your Honor, the evidence is clear. The defendant's fingerprints were found at the scene of the crime. Multiple witnesses have identified him as the perpetrator. There is no doubt that Eric Johnson committed this crime. The prosecution sits down with a satisfied smirk, and Clara's chest tightens. She watches Eric, who sits at her side, his eyes wide with fear. He looks over at Clara, pleading with his gaze. Clara looks back at him, her face a mask of resolve. Clara, whispering to Eric, I believe you. I won't let them win. Just trust me. Clara stands, her legs shaky but her voice steady. She approaches the podium, taking a deep breath before speaking. The room grows quiet as her words hang in the air. Clara, with determination. Your Honor, the prosecution has painted a picture based on circumstantial evidence. Yes, Eric's fingerprints were found at the scene, but that's not the whole story. What they failed to tell you is why those fingerprints were there. What they failed to tell you is the truth. The room is silent. Clara can feel the eyes of the courtroom on her, judging, questioning, but she ignores them. She focuses on Eric's face, the trust in his eyes pushing her forward. Clara, growing in confidence. My client was framed. The real killer is someone who's been hiding in plain sight, manipulating the evidence to cover his tracks. And I can prove it. The shock in the room is palpable. Murmurs ripple through the audience, and Clara feels a flicker of hope. She pulls out a new piece of evidence, a hidden security camera footage she managed to retrieve last minute, showing someone else at the crime scene. The camera zooms in on Clara's face as she walks back to the podium, adrenaline pumping through her veins. Clara, with urgency, this footage shows the real perpetrator, someone with far more motive and access than my client, someone who's been covering their tracks. Eric was set up. He had no choice but to be in that location, but he didn't commit the crime. The prosecution stands visibly shocked, his earlier confidence now replaced by uncertainty. Mr. Thompson, stammering, Your Honor, this is, where did this footage come from? Clara, calmly, it came from a source I discovered late last night. I wasn't going to let my client take the fall for something he didn't do. I wasn't going to let him become another statistic. Eric's face, his eyes wide with disbelief, then filled with gratitude. Clara's heart races as the judge considers the evidence. This was it. Clara had risked everything for this moment. She'd risked her career, her reputation, everything. But in this moment, she realized that it wasn't just about the case. It was about standing up for what was right, no matter the cost. The judge stands, his face unreadable as he looks at the evidence. The tension in the room is unbearable. Finally, he speaks. Judge, gravely, after reviewing the new evidence, I believe there is enough doubt to overturn the previous conclusion. I will grant the defense's request for a dismissal of charges. The courtroom erupts in shock and disbelief. Clara's knees nearly buckle beneath her, but she stands tall, her hands trembling slightly as she breathes a sigh of relief. Eric's face breaks into a smile, tears streaming down his face as he turns to Clara. Eric, voice shaking, You did it. You saved me. Clara smiles, her eyes filled with exhaustion and triumph. She nods, unable to find the words to express the weight she's been carrying for so long. Clara, softly, No, you saved yourself. I just helped you see it. Attention focused on Clara's face as she stood in the center of the courtroom, the weight of the moment sinking in. She had fought for justice, and against all odds she had prevailed. The room was silent, and Clara knew deep down that this was only the beginning. For Clara Torres, the fight had just begun. But in this courtroom, on this day, she had proven something more important than her skill as a lawyer. She had proven that no matter how many times you're told you can't, sometimes the only thing standing between you and your dreams is the courage to keep fighting. In Clara's apartment, but this time the room felt different. The piles of textbooks and legal documents were gone. The small table was now neatly arranged. Clara sat at her desk, her expression calm, but there was a hidden pride in her eyes. There was a framed photo on her desk, her first courtroom victory. The photo served as a small reminder of how far she had come. The battle had been long, and the road ahead would be even longer. But for Clara Torres, this victory was more than just a case won. It was proof that the impossible could become reality. It was proof that, despite the odds, someone like her could rise to the challenge and change the course of their life. Cut to Clara walking out of a large law office building. She was now dressed professionally, carrying a briefcase. She stepped out into the bright sunlight, the bustling city surrounding her. But Clara walked with a newfound confidence. On her way out, she passed a group of law students, one of whom called out to her. Law student, smiling. "Clara Torres, right? You were the one who defended that case last week. Everyone's talking about it. You were amazing." Clara stops, her heart swelling with quiet pride. She turns to face the student, a warm smile crossing her face. "Clara," softly, "thank you, but it wasn't about me. It was about doing what's right." The words were simple, but they carried the weight of everything Clara had learned along the way. This wasn't just about winning cases. It was about standing up for what she believed in, no matter the cost. Cut to a flashback of Clara sitting in her small apartment years ago, writing out her dreams. We see her flipping through old notes filled with hopes, fears, and aspirations. The words, "I will be a lawyer," scribbled boldly at the top. There were times when Clara doubted herself, times when the world seemed too harsh, too unforgiving. People had told her that she would never be enough. But she didn't listen. She pushed forward, with every failure, every rejection only making her stronger. It wasn't the title of lawyer that drove her. It was the drive to make a difference. Cut to Clara in the courtroom once more. She's now standing tall, confidently presenting a new case. The judge nods, clearly impressed by her composure and expertise. Her opponent, the same Mr. Thompson from before, looks at her with a mix of respect and disbelief. And now, Clara Torres stood where so many had told her she would never belong. She wasn't just fighting to be seen, she was fighting for justice. And in the end, that was the only thing that truly mattered. Cut to Clara walking out of the courthouse with her client, Eric, who turns to her with a broad smile. Eric, gratefully, "You saved me, Clara. I'll never be able to thank you enough." Clara, smiling, her voice steady, "You've got a second chance at life. That's enough for me." As Clara walks down the courthouse steps, we see a group of young, aspiring lawyers standing nearby. They watch her with admiration, some whispering to each other. One of them, a young woman, approaches Clara hesitantly. Young lawyer, shyly, "Excuse me, Clara. I just wanted to say, you've inspired me. You showed me that anyone, no matter where they come from, can make it. Thank you." Clara turns to her, her eyes soft with understanding. Clara, gently, "Don't thank me. You're already on your way. Just don't let anyone tell you what you can or can't do. Keep pushing forward." The young lawyer smiled, nodding gratefully as Clara walked past him, her steps filled with determination. As Clara stepped into the waiting car, her face revealed a look of calm strength, no longer filled with doubt. Clara Torres had done the impossible. She had fought against the odds, against every obstacle life had thrown at her, and she had emerged victorious. But more than that, she had become a beacon for others, a symbol of resilience, of hope, of the unwavering belief that no matter how many times you're told you can't, you can still rise and change the world. The world around her is fast-moving, but Clara stands still, confident, poised, a woman who has earned her place. Her story is one of countless others, a reminder that the power to change the world doesn't lie in the hands of the powerful. It lies in the hands of those who dare to believe in themselves, who refuse to let the world dictate their worth. Clara Torres proved that with hard work, dedication, and a relentless pursuit of justice, even the most unlikely of dreams could come true. Clara's journey wasn't just about becoming a lawyer. It was about proving that no matter how many doors close in your face, there will always be another one to open if you have the courage to knock.